This is Mialisa from the Wellness and Growth Journeys podcast. Now, before we start today's episode, I want to let you know that we will be discussing sensitive topics, including suicidal thoughts and postpartum depression. Now, these subjects may be difficult for some listeners, and if this content might be triggering to you, please take care while listening. And remember, support is available if you need it. Hi, Leslie. Welcome to the Wellness and Growth Journeys podcast, Empowering Women's Health. So glad that you were able to join me today for just a nice conversation about health and wellness when it comes to women. And you have a very unique perspective and experience, and we can't wait to get into that. So let me just read a little bit about you so that our viewers could get an idea of who you are. So Lesline, not to be confused with Leslie. Lesline, an award-winning registered nurse and certified yoga teacher, created the You Just Had a Baby card deck to help new moms prioritize their health. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in nursing to become a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner with a focus on supporting Black mothers postpartum. As a mother of two herself, Lesline offers virtual yoga sessions and personalized coaching to help moms manage stress and practice self-care. Her work has been featured in Nurse Blake magazine and on Afro TV. So welcome, Lesline. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Mialisa. I appreciate the introduction. I'm happy to be here.
Now let's get into it, because anything postpartum is such a big topic and issue for women, especially on the mental side. Let's not talk about the physical side and everything. Like, everything just kind of culminates after you have a baby, right? And it depends. And I mean, everybody's situation is unique because they might have like their village, because we talk about their village and everything, or you might have help from family to like, but it became like a shift in the last couple of years, especially with COVID and women having babies, during COVID, that whole dynamic kind of changed, especially if you move to like a different country and you're away from family and friends. Like, there is a lot that you have to deal with having like this new tiny human, and if you have multiple depending on you for everything. So the mental side of things, people don't talk about enough, right? So I am happy that you decided to focus on that in your business, right? So can you give us a little bit of the background of how you got into this? So you're a registered nurse, but now you are a wellness advocate and a yoga teacher. So can you give us like a little bit of a story of what kind of led to that transformation, or to that this path?
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that this morning because my son is turning 6 tomorrow. And I was like, if it wasn't for my son, I wouldn't even, well, it's technically if it wasn't for my daughter. I don't know if you've heard this before, but people say like when you have one kid, you're like, oh, it's not that it's easy having one kid, but from one to two is like really challenging, and they were not lying. So when we had our second child, which is our daughter Violet, that is when it was a lot. And by a lot, I was still hormonal from my first child, my son Lennox, because I found out I was pregnant when Lennox was 9 months old. So that in itself, right? So I'm still figuring out how to like take care of him, and I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant again. So it was after having my daughter though, and then having suicidal thoughts and thoughts of wanting to harm her. And it was actually the thoughts of wanting to harm her that scared me more than the thoughts of wanting to hurt myself.
Right.
I always say it like that because I feel like as moms, as women in general, we put ourselves not first, we put ourselves last, right? The more I've shared that part of my story, the more people are like, Yeah, I've had, suicidal thoughts as well. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything? I realize I need to stop saying that because this God has put me here to like share so other people can feel more seen, right? Because it was really uncomfortable when I had those thoughts. Being that I'm a registered nurse, like you said, and I have all these accolades, a lot of the time you don't realize people that have all the accolades, like we be the ones that be suffering the most. Because it's like we are, I can be put into a lot of buckets: an overachieving woman, I'm a mother, like all of these things. So when day, I remember that day like it was yesterday, it was in summer 2020, and I had the suicidal thoughts and the thoughts of mine hurt. It was like one in the same. But thankfully, because of my yoga practice and practicing mindfulness, I was able to like take a step.
So, did you already have your yoga practice before you got pregnant, or was that?
So, well, yes and no. I have been practicing yoga since 2009. And then I became certified as a yoga teacher in 2020. So at the end of 2020, December 2020, I officially became certified as a yoga instructor.
And was yoga outlet for you, or was it just like a fitness? Like I want to be
Yeah,
fit, so I'm gonna do yoga.
even because during that time I wasn't really close. I wasn't close to God at all. I was
Right, right.
far from Him, if I'm going to be
Mm.
honest. Uh, and God has a really creative way of showing himself to me at least. And so I remember after all of that with my daughter, all the thoughts and everything, maybe a month or so later, Mialisa, I was like, okay, I need to get help. Not okay, actually put a pin in that. The story, it's like, okay. So when that happened, I reached out to a therapist. Like that same day, I reached out to a therapist. Got seen within a week, which is amazing because a lot of the time, let's talk about this. People say go to therapy, see a therapist, right? We're hearing that. Amazing. But the flip side of that is that a lot of a lot of the therapists are busy. Like I can
They're booked up. Yeah.
book up, which is amazing, right? We're all getting the help
For
that we
for
need
them, yeah, it's amazing for
for the
them.
other
But
people.
yeah, and there is like this kind of seeking help or getting therapy is almost like a taboo thing. I don't know, like it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think, I need help. We have different, backgrounds and cultures and stuff because where I'm from in the Caribbean, right? It's not a normal, natural thing to kind of seek help from a therapist, right? We know even trying to get people to do marriage counseling, more or less.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And you bring a good I didn't mean to okay, thank you for saying it like that. You bring up a good point with the marriage counseling because typically when people are like, "Oh, we're going to go see marriage," and they say counseling, they don't even say therapy. It's like, "Say
Yes.
therapy. Just say it. Say therapy. It's okay." But you make a good point because culturally, like I'm Jamaican, like my parents are Jamaican, so I have been raised in that as well. Of like, ooh, like like what we doing? We're going.
Something really wrong with you if you need to, you know what I mean? And it's seen as a negative thing as opposed to a positive, uplifting thing that could actually help you um, just through life, right? So it really is about breaking that kind of, I guess, cultural outlook on therapy in itself, and just telling women, moms who, struggling and are having a hard time. There are options out there for you. You do not have to try to deal with it on your own,
No,
you know.
you can't deal with it on your own. And I will say this about me, Lesline. I am somebody that's very resourceful. I am somebody that also, because I'm first generation in America, I have always had to figure it out. And in that same time, though, I don't want to have to struggle So I seek out other people that can help me be successful. And so with nursing school, when I was in nursing school and I had to take the boards, I was like, okay, I'm passing this the first time. I'm not
Right.
paying my money twice to the standardized test. So
I hear
I'm going
you.
to find a tutor, right?
Right. Right.
So if you think of a therapist, this might be a stretch, but if you
Mm.
think of a therapist as like a tutor, they give you the tools, just like how a tutor is like, here are the tools so you can ace the test, or not even ace the test, you pass the test, right? You have to look at it this way, and you have to make sure you do this, and you have to make sure you eat your breakfast in the morning. Like those kind of things is similar to how a therapy session is. So if there's anybody that's listening to this podcast today, therapy it's to give you the tools, right? They give you
Yeah.
tools of how to, one, communicate with yourself, because a lot of the time, like, a lot of us don't have effective communication.
Yeah. True. True.
That puts us in this like circle, like, of just like, why am I always doing this, why am I always doing that, or why doesn't my partner listen to me, why don't my kids listen to me? And it's really the communication. If you are causing yourself harm, like, you need to find like a professional that is a licensed therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. There's multiple different aspects of mental health professionals that are unbiased.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to a friend, when you talk to a family member, when you talk to somebody in church, they all have some kind of bias. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Not saying bias is a bad thing at all, but they know you, right? They know you in some shape or form. So they're going to be, nicer, or they'll be mean. They might be like, that's normal that you're thinking like, oh, you just had a baby. Like, just, it's fine. It's
Yes, I get you. Yeah, just play it down like it's yeah, yeah. And that's not what you need. And I guess you could think of it as like when you're sick, you go to the doctor. Now I know that in itself is might even be contentious because we some women only go or some people only go if it's like they can't lay down, they can't stand up, they're in immense pain. So like, if they get like a little cold or maybe something like a flu, I can just take some meds and stay home and get better, right? Like you said, maybe that's like the generational thing, and that's where we handle it ourselves, and only when it's like really serious then we go to the doctor. But so me making that I guess comparison hopefully would resonate with our listeners. Like, so if you're not well, you go to the doctor, you get your meds, and you make sure that you get better. So it's the same thing when it comes to any kind of mental issues that you may have. And yes, the normal, like if people say, "Oh, that's normal," yes, it's normal that you might be feeling a certain way, right? But um it's not normal for you to continue like that. Once you recognize that, yeah, you having like these kind of negative thoughts, then yes, you should look to talk to a professional who could help you with them, right?
especially like, because this is, more targeted to like new mother, like who I talk to is new moms, and it can be very, it's a lot, right? Like, it's a lot, because is you hear of these stories, unfortunately, of like the mom that just like killed the child, and you're like, how could they do that? Oh my god. And this is I it's not that I'm giving them a pass, no, but the overwhelm that new moms feel, especially when they do not have a community, like you're saying, Melissa, or a village. If you are not talking to anybody, like, even in the Bible, it says that we have to talk, like, we need to be in community. Like, that was like the message I was listening to today at church, is like, we have to be in community with one another. So if you're like isolating yourself, especially during the pandemic, a lot of new moms had to, because you don't want to get the baby sick, you don't want to get sick, right? And so when you hear stories of women doing that, I just want more people to not judge those women. Like, yes, that was tragic, and they shouldn't have done that. But when you like peel back the layers of the amount of stress and overwhelm, like, even if you have a partner, right? And as moms, I know me, like my husband be like, what do you need help with? Right. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, so I have another set of hands here, but it goes back to that communication. I didn't know what to tell Jamie, like my husband, like what I needed. And then that would cause him also to feel like helpless because he's like, I don't know what you need. I want to help you. I understand that you just had a baby, but I don't know, Leslie. And that would cause a little bit of strife because it's like, I'm so tired. I'm breastfeeding. I just feel icky. And I don't know. Right. So that was part of the reason I created the cards is also for husbands. Like I've shared this too, like husband, you could take a card and you don't even have to tell your wife. Like you could just be like, go in another room and be like, oh, like this card here says connect with nature, right?
Right.
Oh, Mialisa, I'll keep the baby for a minute. You go outside, take a 5-minute walk. And they'd be like, your wife, your partner, be like, you know what? That's a good idea. Right. So these cards are just little reminders that the partner can give to their wife, or as the new mom, you just take one card and you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on connecting with nature today. Right. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that leads into what I was
Sorry, that I know that was a lot. I know that was so much.
that's fine. I just want you to share what's on your heart, and what's on your mind, because I know you said that every time you look at it, like something different comes out or you see it a different way, right? Which is good because then you read the same story, but then you might get like a different conclusion each time. Especially when you read the Bible. When you read the Bible, you would read like a passage and you get something different every time you read the same passage. So, like you sharing what's on your heart, it might speak to somebody. So, don't like try to silence yourself or anything. Just speak candidly and what was on your mind to say. Um, so, as I was saying, we it does get into the question that I wanted to ask, and like what strategies, and I guess maybe the cards, what strategies have you found are most effective, right, with coping with the stress and the anxiety of raising, one, two, three small children? Like, um, what strategies have you found most effective? And when it comes to, I guess, your approach of wellness. Um,
Yeah, so I've realized that my approach is holistic. I'm getting better with my vocabulary, saying that the first thing, like I said earlier in this conversation, therapy, right? But before I reached out to a therapist, I mentioned to you that like I've been practicing yoga since 2009. So with yoga, just to also, what's the word? Demystify or debunk, because I know when people think of yoga, sometimes they think it's like a religion, it's religious. No, no, it's not. At least I don't subscribe to that. I also will say this, you take what you need from things, right?
yeah,
Take what you need. You don't have to like follow all of it. So with me with yoga though, there are different aspects of yoga, and by that all that means is there's the stretching. So when people think of yoga, they think of the stretching and they think of doing the split and they
was it a cat cow? Was
cat
it?
cow. There you go. See, you know yoga. Like people know it. It's just they'd be like, I'm not flexible, right? And then I always like to be like, well, are you breathing right now? And they're like, yeah. It's like, well, you're practicing yoga. And you're like, huh? Because that's one aspect. That's one whole aspect of yoga is breathing. And there's also the mindfulness aspect, meditation. Like, you could meditate on God's word. Like, there's different ways you can meditate. So, for me, those are different strategies I use prior to calling a therapist. Okay. So, it's like, there's little thing, not little, but there's other things that I did before I picked up the phone, and I also will say this, when I did pick up the phone to call the therapist, this was my second therapist. I had actually seen a previous therapist in 2006, 17, after having my first miscarriage. That was the first time I was like, I need a therapist. I feel like my body failed me. I remember when that happened, I didn't know anybody that had had a miscarriage. So, being my introverted self, I was like going online and I was like, miscarriage. I don't know if I typed podcast, what I typed in, but then I started like finding different podcasts of people going through infertility, blah, blah, blah. And that was like my comfort, and also my permission slip, because I remember there was one podcast I listened to that was like, everybody needs therapy. And like that, just like, I don't know, I was like, whoa, oh, I guess I'm one of the everybody. And then, like, the miscarriage and stuff happened. And I was like, oh, I guess I can get therapy. Like, even though I don't have a mental health disorder, I still need this therapy because I feel really lost. Like I said, I felt like my body failed me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I
yeah.
just like I was like I don't know. And then so talking with that therapist, she introduced me to journaling, which I had realized I had been journaling like since I was a teenager.
Oh yeah, with the diaries. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dear diary, this is what happened
Yeah,
today. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
that's journaling, right? A majority of us have done that. So I was like, oh, so those are strategies that I still do. So like journaling, breathing, meditating, stretching. If you don't like the word yoga, stretching, and then therapy. And then, so now we're back in 2020. I called the therapist, worked with her for maybe a couple of months. And around that same time, I also got a life coach. So I was working with the life coach and a therapist simultaneously. And I like to say this part because I think it was SZA, the singer SZA, or one of these young singers. She was saying that she had a life coach and she was like, that life coach, they suck. They didn't help me. And I just I'm like paraphrasing, but people have asked me this multiple times because when I share, like I had both type of people in my life to help me. A life coach is a person that helps you with goals, with the future. Okay. A therapist is somebody that helps you with the past. So like trauma, childhood, miscarriage, things that have already happened to you. So the therapist that are affect yes, exactly, that are affecting you still. So that is the difference, because I remember seeing that article from SZA where she was just like, all the life coach told me to do, this is what she said, all the life coach told me to do is just breathe. Like that breathing is not helping. That's what she said. And it was like, oh well, you got a lot of, there's stuff you got to work through. You got some trauma. So like you need a therapist, right? So I really like to just tell that to your listeners, because especially if there's somebody that's listening to this that's like, I know nothing, like I'm scared to go to therapy, I'm scared to even like tell my partner or a friend that I'm gonna do this. And you're like, now you're saying life coach, Leslie, like which one do I need? I would personally recommend that you see a therapist first because they're a licensed professional. Life coaches do go through certifications. Like there is a life coach international certification thingy. But I just will say see a therapist first because a lot of us have trauma. Like majority of us have trauma. So it's important to work on the past.
And it's so good to see content online talking about it, because I think the more content we see and hear, right, then it doesn't make it seem like, like such a bad thing about getting help, right? Like, okay, okay. Oh, so she got a life coach. Okay, well, maybe I'll look into that. You know what I mean? So, like, just like open up your mind. Like, you don't have to go through life. And this is one of the biggest thing about this podcast that I want, and I'm inviting like different professionals in different spaces in health and wellness, because we all have little issues in different places, medical, mental, emotional, that we need help with, or did we didn't recognize that maybe I could actually get help for this. I could really, really, like because I did have a life coach, and I went through the whole I think it was like 6 weeks, and it was so eye opening. And I don't want to like veer off, from our conversation, but like when you don't realize that um, things that happen in the past has pretty much dictated how you live your life today, right? And what you think about yourself, right? And the negative way that you think about yourself. So it isn't even, it's never positive. It's never positive. It's always kind of like these limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves that we can't do this, or we're not good enough, or we don't deserve this kind of thing. Listen, ladies, you deserve therapy because you want to live, you want to get over whatever trauma that's holding you back and stopping you from living your best life. You deserve that, right? You deserve to heal from whatever it is that is really holding you back. So I'm hoping that, the more we talk about this, more we have conversations, more content we put out, that it just desensitizes this whole thing about, and like you said, like, oh, I have some sort of mental like dysfunction or something. No, 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 no. You know, nothing's wrong. You just need a little help. That's it. And there are professionals out there that can help you.
Yeah.
So
And not minimizing, like, even if you're like, oh, I've never had, like maybe you are a new mom and you have like a 6 week old baby in your hand right now, like you're currently breastfeeding, and you're like, well, I haven't had those thoughts of wanting to harm. Oh my, no. And I've not had thoughts of wanting to hurt myself. No. I always say this too, and that's one of the cards is like get therapy. Like, so my story can sound really dramatic, right? And that's not everybody's story. Like Mialisa was saying, like all of our stories are unique. So what I'm saying is like you like just how you have the 6 week checkup postpartum, you need to like be like scheduling an appointment with a therapist because this is a major life change. Becoming a new mom is the biggest change to your life. Like, it's bigger than getting a new job. Like, you are now somebody's, like, you're responsible for this person forever. And you need to, like, work through that, and not in a bad
yes,
way,
yeah.
but just like, what does that mean? What does being a mom look like for you? Not what it looks like for Mia Lisa, not what it looks like for Lesline. What does being a mom look like for you? I'm like, that doesn't have anything to me being a good mom. Like, am I loving myself? Am I showing my daughter how I love myself? Am I loving on my children and on my husband? Like, like those are the ways that you are a good mom in quotes, right?
Yes,
So
yeah. I think I remember seeing like I don't want to say meme, but yeah, like one of those little messages on Facebook or Instagram. I can't remember where, but they were saying if you care enough about if you're being a good mom, you're already being a good mom, right? Because you care about about being the best mother you could be, and if you're doing this right and that kind of thing. So there's like if you already have those thoughts, then you're doing something good. Right? So I get you. Mom guilt is so real because, especially in the U.S., right? You guys don't really have like a long maternity leave, as far as I recall, and the amount of ladies, because I'm in a few groups, especially on Facebook and stuff. The oh my gosh, they would post when they have to go back out, and the tears running down the cheeks, and they're showing the little baby, and they're like, look at him or her, you know, how am I supposed to leave this baby any care at anybody else?
it's hard. I
Yeah,
remember, like, 'cause I had to go back 7 weeks, and I had, like, 1 extra week because maybe I had, like, PTO or whatever, and that was the worst to date mom guilt feeling. I remember at that same time, I'm learning how to breastfeed, right? And then now I gotta learn how to pump, and then I'm spilling the milk all over the kitchen, and I'm just like so frustrated with myself. Like, I kind of get emotional just thinking about it again because it's so hard. Like, know, being a mom in general, but being a working mom and not having the privilege of like, because I knew some people are like, oh, I'm gonna stay with the baby for the first year. I know I see a lot of that online, and I'm like, well, this isn't my story, like, and thankfully I had friends that had similar experiences, so it made me feel a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I did get back to work, like my job would let me pump and things like that, but I would drive to my son's daycare and breastfeed him.
Listen.
I did that for a little bit, but I remember that. I remember driving. It was like maybe a mile down the road. It wasn't far, but oh my God, I did so I looking back, I'm like, I am a good mom, and I hope whoever is listening feels the same. 'Cause I try to do everything in my power. And so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I oh, I for me, and I was able to stay with him for 4 months. So he went, yeah, so he went back after he went to nursery after 4 months. And I feel like it isn't easy at, at any age because I know of another friend of mine, her son went to nursery, I think when he was like 1.5 or something, and she bawled like the whole day. So
Yeah, the crying, that is normal. I want to say that to your listeners because I remember giving Lennox to the daycare and I bawled. And I'm not an emotional, like, I am not, well, let me not say that. I don't cry a lot. Like, I know I have some friends, they be crying at like a commercial on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how I am. So then, like, to had just given birth, like, 7 weeks ago, I should, like, there's so many hormones, but I remember giving the bait like Lennox to the teacher, and I was like, ah! I was like bald, like literally bald. And the
yeah,
teacher was like, "It's normal." She's like, "Keep crying. It's okay." And I'm just like, "Oh God!" So like that is normal. That is normal.
I probably called every hour on the hour and asked for pictures. I'm like, what is he doing now? Oh, he's sleeping. Okay, can you send me a picture? Like I think I was more at ease. Let me see. When I grabbed him and he wasn't crying. And when the more I did it, like I would hand him over and he'd be okay. I think the first day he cried, but like the it's like hey, hello, because his name is Mace Mace, and he's like yeah, and he would go with them, and he would be comfortable. And I think that definitely helped to take a load off mentally, because you just want to know that your child is being taken care of and to the best of your ability while you're not there, and that they're safe and that they're comfortable and that they're happy. Um, so but is a big thing to do for that first day, that first step. Oh my gosh, it's such a big thing. And that, yeah, maybe you might need to talk about it to somebody who would listen. I remember telling my boss, and he was like, "Hey, so how did it go?" Oh my gosh, who tell he asked me so? Tears, and it's yeah, he went, but I think he was crying, and I remember calling the nursery as well, and they heard like a baby. I was like, "Is that him? Is he crying?" Oh my gosh, it's so much that you gotta deal with. Okay, so let me switch a little bit. So you practice focusing, or your practice focuses on helping mothers manage their burnout, right? And being more present in their children's lives, right? Can you describe any, I guess, specific techniques or programs that you have developed to support mothers in this journey? I know you have your cars. Is there anything else that you have um, that I guess maybe help, because to be honest, I think the main thing is just organizing or starting out your life or making time, and maybe disconnecting. But I don't want to, let me not talk of you, so you go ahead, you tell me.
No, I was like, I actually appreciate you like specifying because I was like, I don't like, I was making sure I say like not the right thing, but just what'll be beneficial to everybody. When I was in therapy, like after Violet, it was a lot of like a lot of the things she would say was like mindfulness related. Like, she was like, just like what would she say? Man, that was a blur. But it was just like, just being more mindful and present. Like, how can you do that? Like, just taking a deep breath, like as silly as that might sound to some, like taking a deep breath. And sometimes I just like close my eyes. Like, for example, if I'm playing with my kids, right? I would do this like when they were baby, and just like close my eyes, take a deep breath in and out through my mouth, just to like seal the moment in of like being with them. Um, and trying not to have my phone. Trying is the key word. Oh,
Me too. Me too.
right. But I think it's also I think one way to help combat the burnout really is planning, like you were like planning and like, I have my planner and like time blocking, right? So scheduling out your day. I have a friend who's very, very good of planning, and she'd be like, I plan like when I'm playing with my kids because she works from home as well. So like so what I'm saying is like one technique, one strategy you can use is like time blocking. Like, okay, from 5 to 6 p.m., like before dinner or maybe after dinner, because you'd be hungry and stuff. From 6 to 7 or whatever time, 6 to 7 p.m. And that could be long to if I'm gonna be frank. So maybe like 6 to 6:15, right? Like work it up because these kids, like, you'll be this sitting there like, oh my god, 60 minutes of I'm okay, if you have not noticed about me, I be keeping it really, really like frank because playing with kids can be a challenge when you're like, I have to do the laundry, I have to cook, I have to this, I have to that. But if you time block and you're like, okay, I have these 15 minutes dedicated to my son. We're gonna do whatever he wants in the confines of the house, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's what I would suggest is like time blocking, like a 10 to 15 minute time every day, or maybe
Hmm.
just once or twice a week. Like build yourself up to it the same way like working out and things like that. Because
Yeah.
I can catch myself at times being like, I don't want to play with them. Like I like to say these things out loud because I know sometimes like we feel guilty, be like, I'm their mom. I should want to play. And sometimes it's not like that, right?
No.
But so just time blocking it and sitting with them for those 10 to 15 minutes and playing with them and really like being present and focused, even if it's just a 10 to 15 minutes, because that's something else. Like you might think, oh, I'm going to spend a full day, but you're not fully present with them for the full
Yes.
day. You're
Yes.
not. So if
Yes.
you have like a 10 to 15 time block on your calendar and you're like, okay, we're going to do something, if that would be watch YouTube with them, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
build blocks or do a puzzle, take a walk with them, like whatever it is, but that 10 to 15 minutes is dedicated to them.
Yeah, that sounds doable.
Because then that makes you feel less guilty and hence like not burn out. Because with burnout, it's a lot of like not planning. Because if you're not planning out your day, you're burning yourself out because you're like, I have to do all of these things.
Yes.
And typically when that happens, all of these things, you have not written anything down. So then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that. Mommy, 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 mommy. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Next thing you know, it's 9 p.m. You haven't done anything with your child, right? And I'm not saying that in a bad way because hi, hello, it be me a lot. You know what I'm saying? But one way to combat that burnout is like, okay, at 3 p.m. every day, we're gonna, 3 to 3:15, we are gonna play.
That's true. That would definitely be helpful. And I know that somebody might be seeing it as negative, but yeah, just me learning to do it now and just how to like do time blocks. Like I'm gonna work now. Um, time to get some lunch. Time to get something to eat because you could go the whole day without, taking care of yourself, and then I mean, you're not no help to anybody if you don't take care of yourself and make sure you eat on time and that kind of thing. So, yeah, time blocking. It could be a challenge at first, and also you might even feel guilty when you don't stick to
Right. That,
the schedule.
because that was me this morning. I scheduled a workout. I didn't do the workout because, like I was sharing with Lisa before the call. I did not say this. I slept in today because it's still summer. So I'm like, I'm gonna sleep in. So like I didn't work out today, everyone. All right. So I do have a little bit of like, dang it, but like I'm gonna work out tomorrow because I'm in a anyways. I like to keep it really real with people because you see somebody like me or Mialisa and you think like, oh, you have it all together. I will speak for myself. I don't. You know what I'm saying? But I have certain things, practices that I can come back to, right? And so like I know going back to time blocking, you may be like, okay, so I got to sit down every Sunday. Not necessarily. Like yesterday I still was like, okay, I'm gonna plan out today and tomorrow.
Right.
Then that was yesterday. Yesterday was Monday. Today is Tuesday. Right. So it's like just picking out, like, you don't have to plan out your whole week because I know that can also stress people out. So just maybe trying to plan one day at a time. Like literally just like, okay, today I'm going to boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, um,
That yeah, that would be helpful. Either way, because I do like when I do things that I could do ahead and I complete them. Like whether it be like
right.
meal prep, like all right, I just do some cooking for the next 2 days. I don't gotta worry about lunch. No, for the next 2 days, I can just go grab it, heat it up, eat it, that kind of thing, And that helps save time. You can use time now that you would have used for preparing a meal or whatever to do something else. So it could definitely be really helpful. And then if you work, you're not working from home, so you work, like that. It's even more important for you to kind of have these time blocks, not only for your kids but also for yourself, right? Um, a lot of women, moms, and I think even not even moms, do like what they call the doom scrolling. So like at the end of the day, and it's just you. What we doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna give y'all permission to do the scrolling, man. But like, because I feel like it's almost, and I think researchers have been saying that like being like scrolling or like being your, I don't want to compare it to cigarette smoking, but I feel like, yeah, it's that same addiction thing. And so sometimes you just need to like scratch the itch. So if you haven't looked at the phone all day and it's 11 o'clock at night and you haven't done one thing for yourself, and if that's going to be, hopefully it's not scrolling because
Yes,
that's a whole nother,
hopefully, yes. Go to bed early. Don't stay up till like 2, 3 o'clock.
was saying is because like I like to meet people where they're at. So like, cultivating your feed, like who are you following online, right? So like making sure you're following people that make you feel good and don't make you feel bad. If there's any person on that, even if it's family, like just unfollow.
Do you hear that? You hear that, ladies?
It'll make you feel better, and then it won't be as doom scrolling. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this comedian or this mom, the mom comedian, like those type of things that make you feel good before you go to bed.
Yes, and also that lets you know that you are not alone in certain aspects of life because I like you're saying, like the moms who post content on Instagram, the real ones. We ain't talking about the ones who trying to make their life seem perfect. We're talking about the ones who are bringing up issues like intrusive thoughts, for instance. And I was like, I thought that was only me. And then you see the comments, and like all the moms are like, I thought that was just me. So like glad to see that it's not just me who's thinking that I'm gonna drop my baby, or like some harm is gonna come to him or her. Um, um, just normal being around the house, that kind of thing. I saw that video and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for that, because I thought it was only me, right? Thought it was only me, and other women are in there like, oh, thank you for that, because I thought it was only me. And they did such a good job of presenting the content as well, like, oh, wait, let me shut this window because somebody might follow, like that kind of that
Yeah,
kind of those kind of
yeah,
thoughts,
yeah.
which maybe seem irrational,
Uh-huh.
um if you tell somebody else about it, but it's their thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like we programmed to kind of think about every
Yes.
possible thing
Yes.
that could happen. And so as protector, as mom, we got to make sure we get rid of all the dangers and that kind of thing. So that's a whole other thing. I don't know why we do that. That probably we need a therapist or something to help with, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's good to see that sort of content. And yes, I'm like, if you post stuff like that, I'm gonna follow you.
Right.
If let us relate on similar challenges and that kind of thing. So I agree with you. Follow people who could give you help and like kind of foster like some sort of community, even though you don't know them
Exactly.
online.
Encourage you,
Yes,
support.
encourage
Yeah.
you. Yeah, support. So that is yeah
Hmm.
important. And I've started doing that too. Like, no,
Hmm.
yes, like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Come bring the algorithm. Just bring all the
Right.
helpful
Like, yeah,
people
you
my
should like
way.
be excited to press that follow button, right? Like, yeah.
No, you turn yoga and breath work as a part. You turn to yoga, sorry, and breath
Hmm.
work as part
Hmm.
of your transformation journey. How do these practices? I know we spoke about burnout, but what about like unworthiness and again the intrusive thoughts,
Hmm.
particularly among parents, right? How again does these practices in yoga help with I guess maybe that deep down feeling of being unworthy. I don't know if it's as a mom, as a person, how does yoga help in that way, and the breath work, does that help with these particular issues that you might be, I guess, facing?
I know for me, like, especially during the pandemic, and when I came back to like my yoga practice and all of that, like, because it was really stressful, like during the pandemic for all of us, right?
Right.
And so I remember, like, I forget what it was, but we were all in the house, and I just was like, I need to take a minute, and I just like went upstairs and I just went into child's pose, and I just started to breathe, and for me, it just helps me, because like I don't remember the situation at all, but it was probably something along the lines of like I just felt maybe overtouched or I was overstimulated. I was one of the over, right? So when that
You
happened,
needed a break, yes.
and so when that happens, I then also quickly I'm like, oh, I'm not a good mom because I'm always over like feel overtouched. And it's like that's not true. But the only way I can say that's not true is if I like take a moment and like do a stretch or like take 3 breaths.
Yeah, yeah,
So like that's how I like combat the intrusive thoughts. But I will say like get a therapist though first because you you might be like, okay, Leslie, and like I practice yoga, but then I can also be like, well, are you consistent with it? Like, do you have a morning routine or some kind of routine that you're like doing, pouring into yourself in some way that you're connecting with yourself, connecting to God, whoever you believe in. So then when these little things do happen throughout the day, because they always do,
they do.
yeah, they always do. It without fail. That is one thing that is like just knowing like what is your thing. So it might be like, like I don't do yoga, or I don't stretch, like, but you have to move your body. Like that's something else I'll say to people. It's like you have to exercise because if you don't exercise, your mental health is poor. Like I can already tell you that. Like you have poor mental health if you're not moving your body.
And you could move your body in anything, right? Yoga, go for a walk, if you like to dance.
Yes. I always forget dancing because I'm not a good dancer. So I always forget that.
But give me Just Dance, the game, and I'm going in.
Yeah, alright. Yeah, my son loves that. Yeah, because that's like structured. So I agree
Yeah,
with you on that one.
yeah, and yeah, so you got your little dance moves, and it's like a game too, right? So,
Yeah,
and
you
then
work with sweat.
yeah, so I do like games, and I do like the the fusion of tech and exercise, and gaming and exercise. Because when the Wii Fit came out, I was all over it. I was like, "What? This is great!" This is awesome.
Yeah, like the tennis and like, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, just even something like that would be really really good. And in one of the podcasts that I had before, doctors is just move, just do, like, people think that you need to do, like, oh, I need to do, I ain't gotta do it an hour, I can do it half an hour, you know. So we put like this big kind of like pressure on ourselves, like, oh, if I work out, I gotta do something, like whatever that looks like. Yeah, I gotta go to the gym. I gotta use weights. I gotta be there. I gotta be there for at least half an hour for it to be meaningful or to do something.
That goes back to what we said earlier of like spending time with our children.
Right.
Like we think it has to, I'm gonna do a full day at Disney. And we've done that, okay, this summer. And that's a lot,
It is a
okay?
lot. It
You
is a
can't do
lot.
that every single day. Like you can't. So like
Yeah.
I just wanted to tie that back to, oh my God, Leslie, you said you don't want to spend time with your kids. No, I didn't say that. I said that you have to, like, if you want to be present and mindful and like really soak up these moments because they're fleeting, right? We hear it all the time. It goes by so quickly, but it is true. But it also, I like to say, but are we being mindful? Because if we're being mindful in our life, it will still go quickly, but we will be so overwhelmed with gratitude when we truly sit in the moments with the people that matter with us most, right?
So one marketing question, and we running up to time now. So let me just we wrap it up soon. But so as someone who has successfully reached out to a niche audience of mothers through your platform, Lesline Does Wellness, what marketing strategies have you employed to connect with and support this community effectively? Because marketing is my thing. So I do like to ask because I do want to find out, like, you know, how to help and support this niche, because that's the niche that I'm in, right? So it's always interesting for me to find out, like, how do you connect with your people and where the struggle is and where you might need help, that kind of thing. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so your target audience, it's moms, new moms specifically. How do you reach out to them? How do you connect with them? How do you let them know, hey, Lesline is here to help you through the some of the most difficult times in your life as a new mom? So how does that work out?
My website. So I have my website, leslinepittman.com, where I do have like my blog posts and I share like, different new mom struggles. One of the latest ones was like a food schedule during the summer because my kids be like, can I eat? Can I eat? Can I eat? Can I eat? Like every single second. Primarily, my website is what I own, so leslinepittman.com. And then social media, like social media is the freest way I can market myself. It has garnered me so many opportunities just by showing up. Like, and I don't minimize that because I know people be like, it's hard. Some people, they struggle with showing up on social media. But knowing my purpose, um, of just helping new moms so they don't feel the way I felt when they first had kids. Like that's really like my purpose. And it wasn't really clear. I also want to say that when I started Lesline Does Wellness three years ago, which is so short, it wasn't a clear purpose. I just felt that I needed to share the joy that I felt from now being certified as a yoga instructor, and it slowly evolved. And so when I first started on social media, as Lesline Does Wellness, it was like, I'm showing you yoga poses that make me happy, and I want them to make you happy as well. And that just emitted. It light just emitted. Like so many people are like, you are a bright light. Like so many people say that to me. And it's because now I'm locked in, right, into like what I'm supposed to be doing. And so yeah, social media, networking in person. But because of social media, networking is easier for me. in person because people are like, "Oh yeah, I saw you took the kids to this or you did this. Like, how was that? Or how's your new car?" Because I got a new car, so I share that. So like I'm like, "Oh, like people are paying attention and also it makes conversation easier." Because
Yes,
like I
yes.
shared with you all, I am an introvert. Like I like to be by myself even though I am online. That does not mean that I'm an extrovert. Like I like to make that clear because people think, oh, you show up online, like da da da. But what I'm saying is being on social media has helped me network easier in person. Where I'm struggling, I don't know if it's necessarily struggling, but I'm challenging myself with YouTube now because I realize YouTube is like, I was actually in this call yesterday and like YouTube is like, it's Facebook then YouTube, like that has the most users.
Yeah, yeah. And actually when it comes to like searching for certain issues or problems or whatever, YouTube is actually up there because Google be smart. They have they have like you could search the what's it called no, the captions. So like you would look for, I don't know, like, oh, how do I do this particular thing? And then in your search results of Google, they would like just highlight the point in the video
Yeah, I've noticed
that
that.
that speaks specifically to what you asked for.
Yes, I have noticed that. So yeah, I'm over there now. So I post weekly videos over there. It's a long game, but I just share my life as becoming a full-time entrepreneur. So the handle is the same, Lesline Pittman over there. So a new video will be posted tomorrow. But just learning the YouTube world because I love Instagram and then I'm on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's where I found you.
That's where you found me. And LinkedIn people, they be sleeping on it, but that
Yeah. And I like LinkedIn too because like I'm hoping that when I reach out to people, like they know that I'm serious and I'm not coming with any like kind of scammy, sketchy anything. Like so that's why I really like LinkedIn.
I appreciate you saying that because like I was mentioning that like I was recording like a little video before this and I was like, yeah, like Mialisa reached out to me and like I on LinkedIn, like I know people are serious. Like it's not just like you're playing games and like yeah.
As we conclude, could you share a piece of advice or insight for our listeners, especially those who want to embark on their own wellness journey? Any advice, any tips? So I'm a new mom, any sort of exercise or wellness, like that's not in the forefront of my mind right now. The only thing I can think about is making sure that this baby stop crying and he's fed and he's bathed and he's well taken care of. How then do we make that I want to pivot, but like that step to think about ourselves and think about our wellness and that kind of thing. Any advice as to how to just make that first step?
I would say purchase the cards like you just had a baby because every single card in here is something that I have personally done and it gives you one task a day to focus on, right? Another piece of advice I'd be is go in like I mentioned, I have my YouTube channel and I have free yoga videos over there. I have yoga videos as short as 5 minutes. So if you're able to do a 5 minute stretch with me, you can check me out over on YouTube at Lesline Pittman.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, Leslie. It's been such a great conversation, and I hope our listeners are able to just get some courage or to get the help that they need, some courage to start thinking about their wellness, some courage to start moving and just getting a little bit of exercise in. I've even seen videos with moms exercising with the baby.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
You think, oh,
That's a
I mean,
weight. They're like a good 10 pounds.
that's a good way to get. Was it two birds one stone? You exercise and you spend time. You spend time with a baby, and they
Exactly.
and they like that stuff. They like that stuff, and they really just like spending time with you. They really do. They don't care what you're doing.
They don't.
If
They
you're cleaning the house, if you, yeah, just and they would help. They would help. And they like to, and they feel proud when they help too, especially when they're toddlers. They feel pretty proud that they help your mommy, they help your daddy do this. So yeah, so don't be afraid to get the help that you need. Yeah, you recognize that you need some help, and then just do some online research to get. Everybody needs therapy. I guess that's the main takeaway here.
and you can always send me a DM. Like I'm just type my name into Google, and I don't know, LinkedIn will pop up first, and then probably Instagram, and then my website.
And not the website. Okay, okay.
No, yeah, I think it's LinkedIn first, which is weird. I don't know. Anyways, either way though, send me a message. Like I'm open to chatting with you. I do like consultation calls. So if you're like, I want you as like, my coach, like in any type of like like as a new mom coach, you can reach out to me, and we can like give you more so a personalized like routine, like what that, because it really comes down to a routine. And I can give you resources as well. I have resources on my website too that you can see. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, you hear it, guys. Thank you again, Leslie. It's been an
welcome.
awesome conversation. Um, yeah, and you have an awesome, awesome day.
All right, bye.